On June 12, 2020, about 150 people gathered at Shoelace Park in the Bronx, New York. The event was a graduation party. People were standing, talking, and listening to music. At around 11 p.m., a silver BMW drove up to the park. Two men got out of the car. They started shooting into the crowd without warning. The shooters did not speak to anyone before firing, for people were hit by the bullets. Two of them were teenage boys, ages 15 and 16. Another was a 24-year-old man. All three survived their injuries. The fourth victim was Tyana Johnson, a 19-year-old woman. She was hit 5 times. One of the bullets struck her in the head. Tyana was taken to Jacoby Medical Center. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. The two shooters got back into the silver BMW and drove away. Their faces were captured on security cameras in the area. The New York Police Department released the footage to the public. They also offered a reward of $10,000 for any information that could help solve the case. As of today, the shooters have not been identified. No one has been arrested for the shooting. The case remains open. Tyana Johnson was not involved in any argument or fight that night. Police believe she was not the target. She was standing near other people in the crowd when the shooting happened. This is a story of how a graduation party at a park in New York turned into a shooting scene in seconds. Welcome to True Crime Unmasked. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. The show where we uncover the disturbing crimes tearing communities apart and the haunting truths hidden behind closed doors. These are real stories, real individuals, real consequences. Stay tuned for more captivating stories. Now let's dive in. Tyana Johnson was born and raised in New York City, specifically in the Bronx. Like many young people growing up in the Bronx, she faced challenges but stayed focused on her personal goals. While some teens in her area might have been involved in fights, gang activity, or crime, Tyana stayed away from that lifestyle. She was focused on something else: her education. Education was a major part of Tyana's life. Just before her death, she had completed a major milestone, earning her associate's degree from Monroe College. Monroe College is a private school with campuses in the Bronx and New Rochelle, known for helping students move quickly through their programs so they can start careers or transfer to four-year colleges. Tyana took her education seriously and did not waste time. While others were partying during their teenage years, she was attending classes, doing homework, and preparing for something bigger. Her next step after graduation was clear. She had plans to continue her studies by enrolling in a bachelor's degree program. She wanted a better life, not just for herself, but for her family. Tyana knew that having a bachelor's degree would give her more options, better pay, and a more secure future. She was already talking with her family about the school she was considering and the career choices she was thinking about. When it came to her personality, people described Tyana as quiet. She wasn't loud, aggressive, or the type of person to get into trouble. She was someone who focused on herself and her goals. In a neighborhood where fights, drama, and distractions are common, Tyana stayed focused on education and improving herself. She was known to avoid trouble, stay home to study, and spend time with her close friends. One of the most important relationships in her life was the one she shared with her mother, Natasha Allen. Natasha was not just Tyana's parent. She was also her support system. Tyana talked to her mother about school, about life, and about her plans for the future. Natasha was proud of her daughter's hard work, and she supported Tyana's dream of getting a degree and building a better life. Tyana didn't come from a rich family. Like many people in the Bronx, she grew up in a working-class household. That made her achievements even more impressive. Earning a degree while living in a community surrounded by crime and poverty showed how determined she was to succeed. Her main goal in life was simple: to finish school, get a good job, and improve life for herself and her family. She wasn't trying to get famous or be popular on social media. She didn't care about street reputation. Her focus was always on making a better life through education. That was her plan, and that's what she was working toward before her life was taken. On the night of her death, Tyana was celebrating a milestone she worked hard for. She went to the park to enjoy the moment with friends and other graduates. It was supposed to be a happy memory, something to smile about before starting the next chapter of her life. Instead, that night ended with tragedy. Tyana never got the chance to speak any last words. That night, around 150 people gathered in the park. The event was informal. Friends invited other friends, and the crowd kept growing. Many were young, some teenagers, some in their 20s. Music was playing. People were dancing. Social media videos were being recorded. It looked like a typical Bronx summer celebration. Shortly before 11 p.m., the atmosphere changed. A silver BMW sedan pulled up near the park. Witnesses later told the police that the car seemed to drive slowly at first, like the people inside were scanning the crowd. Two men exited the car. According to police reports, neither of the men said a word. No threats. No arguments. They simply stepped out of the BMW and started shooting directly into the crowd. The shooting was random. The gunmen did not appear to aim at any specific individual. Instead, they fired repeatedly into the group of people gathered near the middle of the park. Panic followed immediately. People screamed and began running in every direction. Some tried to hide behind benches. Others fell to the ground to avoid being hit. The scene quickly turned into chaos. Amid the panic, people were hit by gunfire. The first was a 15-year-old boy, shot once in the leg. The second was a 16-year-old boy, also hit in the leg. Both teenagers were standing near each other, caught in the middle of the firing. The third victim was a 24-year-old man. He was shot in the torso. All three survived their injuries after being transported to the hospital. The fourth victim was Tyana Johnson. Tyana, only 19 years old, was standing near the center of the crowd. She had gone to the park that night to celebrate her recent graduation from Monroe College. According to witnesses, she had been standing quietly with friends just moments before the shots rang out. When the bullets started flying, Tyana tried to move but had no time to react. She was struck 5 times. One of those bullets hit her in the head. After the shooters emptied their weapons, they ran back to the silver BMW and drove off. The whole incident, from the car pulling up to the moment the shooters fled, lasted only a few minutes. The shooters did not stay to see the damage they caused. After the first gunshots echoed through Shoelace Park, panic spread fast across the area. People were running in every direction, pushing each other aside, trying to escape from what had just turned into a war zone. Some tripped on the uneven ground. Others hid behind trees or parked cars, hoping the shooting would stop. The noise of gunfire mixed with screaming filled the night air. Within minutes, emergency calls started flooding into 911. Callers told operators there had been a shooting at Shoelace Park in the Bronx. Some said they saw people fall to the ground. Others reported seeing a silver BMW speeding away from the area. The police department responded immediately. NYPD officers from the local precinct were already nearby because the graduation party had drawn a large crowd earlier that night. Once the calls came in, more patrol cars were sent toward the park. The flashing red and blue lights from their sirens could be seen cutting through the dark streets as they raced toward the scene. When officers arrived, they found a confusing and dangerous scene. People were still running, some screaming, others frozen in shock. Several victims were lying on the ground, blood-stained parts of grass and sidewalk. There was no sign of the shooters. The silver BMW had already disappeared into the city streets. Officers began controlling the scene right away. They called for ambulances and backup units. Paramedics from the FDNY were not far behind. They brought medical bags, stretchers, and oxygen tanks, prepared to save whoever they could. Tyana Johnson was one of the first victims paramedics reached. She had been shot 5 times. One of those bullets had struck her head. Medics immediately checked for her pulse and signs of breathing. It was weak, but it was still there. Every second counted. Without wasting time, they loaded her onto a stretcher and secured her body with straps to keep her stable during the ride. At the same time, other paramedics were tending to 3 more victims. A 15-year-old boy had been shot in the leg. Another teenager, a 16-year-old boy, was shot in the back. A 24-year-old man had a gunshot wound to his shoulder. These 3 victims were conscious, in pain, but alive. All 4 were transported to Jacoby Medical Center, the closest trauma hospital in the Bronx. Jacoby Medical Center has one of the busiest emergency rooms in the city. and its trauma team is used to handling cases like this. When Tyana arrived, doctors and nurses took her directly into the emergency trauma bay. The team worked fast, using everything they had to try to save her. They checked her vital signs, applied pressure to stop the bleeding, and tried to stabilize her condition. Despite their efforts, the injuries were too severe. The bullet wound to Tyana's head caused massive damage. The other gunshot wounds had also caused serious internal bleeding. After trying every possible emergency procedure, the trauma team could not save her life. Tyana Johnson was pronounced dead at Jacoby Medical Center that night. The 3 other victims were stabilized and survived their injuries. Doctors kept them under observation for several days to ensure they didn't develop any further complications. They were eventually released from the hospital. Meanwhile, NYPD detectives were already working the case from the moment officers arrived at the scene. They spoke with eyewitnesses, reviewed surveillance cameras in the area, and checked for any shell casings or evidence left behind at the park. The investigation was running at full speed, but at that moment, the priority was securing the crime scene and gathering as many details as possible about the suspects and the silver BMW. Crime scene tape was stretched around large parts of the park. NYPD officers guarded the perimeter to keep curious onlookers and news reporters away while forensic teams searched for clues. Tyana's family was notified at the hospital. Detectives prepared to interview any family members or friends who might know what happened or why Tyana had become a target. Early signs pointed to the fact that Tyana was not the intended target of the shooting. Police believed that the shooters had been aiming at someone else in the crowd. Tyana, standing in the wrong place, was hit by stray bullets. By early morning, Jacoby Medical Center had become the center of attention for reporters and grieving family members arriving to confirm what had happened. The official announcement of Tyana's death would later be given by the NYPD, as the hunt for the killers continued. This was the start of a murder case that remains unsolved to this day. According to witness reports and video evidence reviewed by the police, there were 2 suspects involved in the shooting. These 2 men were seen arriving at Shoelace Park in a silver BMW just before the shooting began. Video footage captured them stepping out of the car and opening fire into the crowd without warning. The entire incident lasted only a few seconds before both men got back into the vehicle and drove away from the scene at high speed. The shooters appear to have a specific target in mind, but due to the crowd size and the random nature of their firing, they hit multiple people, including Tyana Johnson. Witnesses described the 2 men as young, possibly in their early 20s, wearing dark clothing at the time of the attack. However, no clear facial images were captured by the available surveillance footage, making it harder for investigators to make quick identifications. The silver BMW used in the shooting was described as a newer model sedan, likely stolen or using stolen plates to avoid easy tracking. Despite combing through nearby surveillance cameras in surrounding neighborhoods, the NYPD was unable to recover clear license plate information from the footage they gathered. The NYPD released photos and video footage of the suspects in the weeks following the shooting. These were taken from nearby surveillance cameras and showed the 2 men getting out of the silver BMW moments before the shots were fired. Though the images were somewhat blurry and taken from a distance, police hoped that someone in the community might recognize the individuals or the vehicle. To encourage witnesses or community members to step forward, a $10,000 reward was offered for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the shooters. This reward was promoted in local newspapers, online news platforms, and social media. Crime Stoppers posters were also placed in areas near Shoelace Park and throughout the Bronx in an effort to spread awareness of the case. Additionally, the NYPD Crime Stoppers tip line was made available to the public. The phone number for anonymous tips is 1-800-577-TIPS. Community members were urged to use the hotline if they had any knowledge about the shooters, the silver BMW, or anyone seen leaving the area around the time of the crime. The NYPD stated clearly that callers could remain anonymous if they chose, removing fears of retaliation for cooperating with police. In interviews, NYPD officials explained that they were checking databases for any reports of stolen silver BMWs around the time of the shooting. They also coordinated with neighboring precincts and the state police to widen the search area. Police also conducted interviews with anyone who attended the graduation party, hoping someone saw a clearer view of the suspects or noticed strange activity before the attack happened. Despite these efforts, leads quickly dried up. With no solid identification of the suspects, no recovered vehicle, and no direct witnesses able to provide names, the case began to slow down. As of today, no arrests have been made in connection to the murder of Tyana Johnson. The two suspects remain unknown. The NYPD continues to classify the investigation as active, and a $10,000 reward for information is still available. The police department has not provided further updates on new leads or breakthroughs in the case. The shooting that killed Tyana Johnson has remained an open file at the precinct handling homicides in that district of the Bronx. Detectives assigned to the case have stated in reports that they continue to follow any new information they receive, but have not made further progress towards solving the crime. Tips received through the Crime Stoppers hotline have so far not led to any suspects being arrested. When Tyana Johnson died on that graduation night, the people who felt the biggest loss were her family. At the center of that pain was her mother, Natasha Allen. Tyana was not just her daughter, she was her hope for the future. After the shooting, Natasha quickly became the voice of the family. She stood in front of cameras. She spoke to reporters. She made one thing very clear. She wanted answers, and she wanted justice. Natasha didn't hide from the media. She stood outside her home and in public spaces, saying over and over that Tyana didn't deserve to die that way. She wanted the people who fired the shots to face the law. Natasha's voice became a symbol for many parents in her neighborhood who had also lost their children to gun violence. But Natasha's main focus was one thing: finding out who killed her daughter. In interviews with local reporters, Natasha explained that Tyana had just finished school. She had completed her associate's degree from Monroe College, a private college in the Bronx. Tyana was already making plans to continue school and get her bachelor's degree. She wasn't just talking about going back. She was actively working on it. She had taken steps, filled out forms, and spoken to school advisors. Everything was moving forward. But now all those plans stopped in a single night. According to Natasha, Tyana didn't hang out with bad crowds. She didn't go looking for trouble. That night in Shoelace Park was supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be a celebration of graduation. Instead, it became the last thing Tyana would ever do. Natasha repeated this many times. Tyana wasn't involved in anything illegal. She was just standing there, enjoying the music, when the bullets came flying. After Tyana's death, the future her family had imagined was gone. Natasha had been expecting to attend her daughter's college graduation in full. She had imagined taking pictures with Tyana in her graduation gown. She had dreamed of helping her daughter decorate her first apartment. Those plans would never happen now. Tyana was never going to finish college. She was never going to start a career. She was never going to get married or start a family. All of that ended the moment she was shot. The family's financial future was also affected. Natasha had been counting on Tyana finishing her education, getting a good job, and helping improve the family situation. Tyana's future earnings were supposed to help build a better life for both of them. Without Tyana, those goals disappeared overnight. Even though Natasha spoke publicly, she didn't get many answers. The New York Police Department worked on the case, but arrests were not made right away. The police released video clips of possible suspects. They showed photos of a silver BMW, believed to be the getaway car. A $10,000 reward was offered for any information that could lead to an arrest. Still, weeks passed without anyone being caught. Natasha kept asking the same question: who killed my daughter? For a short time, Tyana's death was in the news. Local TV stations ran the story. Some major news outlets picked it up for brief reports. On social media, her story was shared by people who were shocked by the shooting. Some used hashtags to try to bring more attention to the case. But just like many other shootings in New York City that summer, public attention faded quickly. Bigger national stories took over the news. The focus shifted away from Tyana's death, and soon it was only her family and close friends still talking about her regularly. Even though Natasha kept speaking out, the pressure from the media wasn't enough to bring a quick result. Tyana's face slowly disappeared from TV screens. Her name stopped trending on social media. The $10,000 reward was still available, but no one stepped forward with solid evidence. The suspect remained unidentified and the case grew cold. In the weeks after Tyana's funeral, her family was left with nothing but memories and questions. Natasha was still living in the Bronx, the same place where her daughter's life had been stolen. Every time she walked around her neighborhood, she was reminded of what had happened. Posters asking for information were still hanging around, but they were starting to fade. The bright colors on the flyers were turning pale under the sun and rain. Natasha had spoken to reporters, detectives, and anyone who would listen. But one fact remained. Her daughter was gone, her family's plans were destroyed, and the people who did it were still free. This was the new reality for Tyana Johnson's family. Her future was over. Their future was broken, and justice had not been served. If this story touched you deeply and made you question what's real, be sure to tap the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. For more gripping true crime stories that unravel the hidden truths behind heartbreaking cases, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest episodes, investigations, and powerful conversations. Thank you for joining us on this journey to uncover the truth and fight for justice. Together, we can shine a light where it's needed most. Stay safe, stay alert, and we'll see you in the next story.